myself is that I have an unhealthy relationship with praise. In fact, I would go so far as to say I'm addicted to it. If you offer me praise, you will have my complete and undivided attention. And it doesn't have to be particularly true or accurate. I'll know the truth or falsity of whatever you happen to say, but I'll happily accept any praise that I have coming my way. Criticism, on the other hand, is like driving needles into my arm. Sure, I can put up with it, but I'll find any excuse I can to avoid having to face it. And the truth of the complaint? Well, if it's false or exaggerated, I'll still be offended that you attributed such a crime to me, but I'll probably explain that to myself as a reflection of your character rather than mine. But if it's true, I'll likely be even more offended that you noticed and felt compelled to say something. And I wonder if you're the same. I suspect that most people are. And look, I realise a couple of things about this situation. Firstly, if you do have a genuine criticism of me, and you believe that my life might be improved by my knowing it, how should you approach the task? Well, there's no point in just blurting it out. You have to wrap the criticism in praise. Now, I don't mean giving backhanded compliments. It has to be genuine or honest, or I won't trust it. And it could help to give me fair warning of what's coming. I had a friend a number of years ago who let me drive his fancy sports car. He let me get going and then said, "Are you ready for some instruction?" Several years ago, I taught a young boy with Asperger's to play the piano, and I learnt very quickly that if he perceived anything that I said as criticism, the rest of the piano lesson would be lost. So I had to find a way to correct him without actually verbalizing the criticism. So we'd make the task a game. Or I'd say, let's try it this way, and find a way for him to succeed before finishing with, well done, that's the way to do it. But the other thing that I learn is that I am both very bad at learning and very easy to manipulate. A criticism from someone with my best interests at heart will probably be ignored in favour of the schemer with the silver tongue. And that is a very dangerous situation indeed. Recently, I've been reading the life of Buddha, and I think this is one of the reasons he talks about letting go of attachment to worldly things. Once I have abandoned my need for praise and my hatred of criticism, I'm free to see the reality that is presented before me. It's not the words that are important, it's the intent behind them. Are they intended for my welfare, or are they intended to bend my will to someone else's? Jesus said, "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruit." Since a person's internal and external can thus go in opposite directions, and since the body is discarded and the spirit remains, it is clear that a murky spirit can live behind a shining face, and a fiery one behind a smooth tongue. Therefore, my friend, you must get to know a person not by his mouth, but by his heart. That is, not by his conversation, but by what he does. So I think the wise person recognizes their attachment to praise and seeks to break that reliance. But he also recognizes that most other people are similarly addicted. And when the time comes to speak some home truths, he's able to articulate it in such a way that those truths can be heard, received, and acted on. Now, if a wise person can do this, don't you think God can too? You know, we sometimes treat the Bible as though it is plain, simple, and unadorned truth. But it is not. The truth from God cannot be received by anyone unless it is adjusted to what he is capable of understanding, and so unless it is seen in a natural shape and form. For initially, human minds can understand only earthly and worldly things, and not at all spiritual and celestial ones. If therefore spiritual and celestial things were made plainly visible, they would be cast aside, as if they were worthless. This accords with the Lord's words in John, "If I have told you earthly things and you do not believe, how will you believe if I tell you heavenly things?" The reason why the word is presented in these terms is not to pull the wool over our eyes, but it is for our growth, leading to spiritual maturity. To make a person new, knowledges are instilled into him such as are not completely contrary to those he has already. For example, the idea that all love starts in himself. The idea that one should consider oneself first and others only after that. The idea that those people who are outwardly poor and wretched should be helped irrespective of what they are like inwardly. And that similarly, widows and orphans should be helped solely because they are such. And at length, the idea that enemies in general should be helped irrespective of who they may be. And also the idea that by acting in these ways, one is able to merit heaven. These, and other ideas like them, are the knowledges proper to the early childhood of his new life. They are such that because they derive to some extent from his previous life, or the disposition belonging to his previous life, they also derive to some extent from his new life, into which he is being led in this way. They are consequently such as allow into themselves things that contribute towards the formation of a new will and of a new understanding. They are the lowest forms of good and truth, and it is with these that people who are being regenerated start out. And because these lowest forms of good and truth allow more interior truths into themselves, that is, truths closer to divine truths, falsities which a person had previously believed to be truths are also rooted out. What we have in the Bible is the divine reaching into human life in a way that we understand, so that he may lead us home, as Jesus describes in the parable of the lost sheep. What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he loses one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one which is lost until he finds it? I wonder, how has your grasp of a truth you were taught in childhood developed and matured? No doubt you will have rejected some outright, but perhaps others have taken on a new depth and meaning as you've grown. I'd be very interested to hear your experience. Please do put something down in the comments. As always, keep it friendly, and I look forward to talking to you next time.